You wake up. You walk to the mirror. You bare your teeth. You scrub them to keep them perfectly white. If you see a single dark spot, you panic. You book a dentist. You want your mouth shining like bone. But for thousands of years, some of the wealthiest, most powerful humans on Earth did the exact opposite. They boiled down scrap metal, mixed it with fermented acid, and painted their teeth pitch black on purpose. Not as a punishment, not as a joke. They did it as the ultimate flex. Why would millions of aristocrats, warriors, and elites endure a foul, rotting sludge just to deliberately make their mouths look like coal? You need to understand exactly what these humans were putting in their mouths, because this was not a simple berry stain. In Japan, they called the practice ohaguro, and the recipe was a biological nightmare. You take iron scraps, rusty nails, broken tools, old coins, whatever metal you have, you dump them into a dark cup of vinegar, or sometimes tea, or sake. You let it sit in the open air. You let it fester. You wait until the iron oxidizes and the liquid turns into a dark, sludgy swamp water called kanemizu. The smell was notoriously horrific. Historical records indicate it smelled remarkably like raw sewage or rotting garbage. But if you were an ancient elite, you did not stop there. You had to make the color stick, which required a secondary ingredient. You took powder from gallnuts. Gallnuts are those hard, weird spheres that grow on tree branches when a wasp stings the bark and lays its eggs inside. You grind up these wasp-mutated tree tumors. You mix that powder into your rusty swamp water. The chemical reaction instantly turns the liquid deeply, opaquely black. Then you take a small brush made of feathers or bamboo. You open your mouth, and you paint it directly onto your teeth. The taste is incredibly bitter. It stains your tongue. It stains your gums. And because it fades naturally over time, you had to repeat this entirely awful process every few days for the rest of your life just to maintain the perfect abyss in your mouth. To our modern brains, this sounds like sheer insanity. You look in the mirror today and think white teeth make you look healthy and civilized. But you are looking through a very recent lens. To the Japanese aristocrats of the Heian period, and to dozens of other cultures across the globe, white teeth did not mean you were healthy. White teeth meant you were an animal. Look at a dog. Look at a wolf. Look at a wild horse. What do you see? Row after row of gleaming white teeth. Wild animals have white teeth. Uncivilized beasts that tear raw meat off the bone have white teeth. To these ancient humans, leaving your teeth pure white was basically walking around completely naked. It was raw, unrefined, and barbaric. You were just another mammal playing in the dirt. Painting your teeth black was the ultimate proof of humanity. It proved you were separated from the beasts. It proved you had culture, immense discipline, and the profound wealth required to sit around brewing rusty iron sludge instead of working out in the fields. A mouth full of deep, glossy black was a visual signal to everyone in the room that you had completely conquered your own animal nature. It was not just an aesthetic choice. It was a deeply ingrained biological uniform that spanned continents. This was not just isolated to one island nation. When Spanish explorers arrived in the Philippines in the 16th century, they found ancient human cultures that took immense pride in the dark sheen of their smiles. They would use mixtures of earth, leaves, and sap to stain their teeth black. In Vietnam, a common historical saying dictated that a dog has white teeth, but a true civilized citizen has black teeth. The practice stretched across Southeast Asia, the Pacific Islands, and even into parts of ancient South America. Across all these vastly different environments, ancient humans arrived at the exact same conclusion. White was wild, black was human. As the centuries passed, the black teeth took on an even heavier cultural weight, becoming a strict marker of status and life stages. By the 12th century in Japan, if you were a high-ranking noble, you painted your teeth black. If you were a member of the imperial family, you painted your teeth black. It became the ultimate mark of coming of age. When a young aristocrat hit puberty, usually around age 15, they went through their first tooth blackening ceremony. It signaled to the entire society that they were now an adult, ready for marriage and politics. But the practice did not stay confined to the wealthy aristocrats sitting in palaces. It spread to the military, where it took on a much darker, heavier meaning. The samurai adopted the black teeth. Picture a heavily armored samurai, pulling on a terrifying iron mask. preparing to ride into brutal hand-to-hand combat, and beneath that mask, his teeth are painted the color of the night sky. For the samurai, painting their teeth black became a physical manifestation of absolute loyalty. Think about the color black. You can take a white piece of fabric and dye it red, or green, or blue. But once something is dyed thoroughly black, it can never be changed to another color. Samurai blackened their teeth to visually demonstrate to their lords that their loyalty was permanent. It could not be overwritten. It could not be stained by another master. They would serve until death. Their allegiance is unchangeable as the dark void in their mouths. And if a samurai fell on the battlefield, the black teeth ensured they would be identified as a person of noble rank, someone worthy of respect even in the mud and blood. This is the moment where you might feel a bit smug. You might think, sure, they had their intense cultural reasons and poetic metaphors about loyalty, but at least we have modern dentistry. At least we know how to actually take care of our teeth instead of covering them in foul-smelling trash juice. But this is exactly where history quietly flips the script on you. These ancient humans were not just engaging in some arbitrary, toxic beauty pageant. They had accidentally stumbled into an incredibly advanced biological hack. Let us look closely at the chemistry of that disgusting recipe again. Iron filings soaked in acidic vinegar, mixed with the powder of gallnuts. Gallnuts are absolutely packed with tannic acid. When you mix tannic acid with ferrous acetate, which is the iron vinegar liquid, you get a very specific chemical reaction. It creates a non-water-soluble compound called ferric tannate. When these ancient humans painted this mixture onto their teeth, they were not just dyeing the enamel, they were chemically sealing it. The ferric tannate created a microscopic, impenetrable armor over the tooth. It repelled harmful bacteria. It stopped plaque from forming. It completely neutralized the acid attacks that caused tooth decay. It was an incredibly potent, long-lasting, antibacterial shield. Modern scientists have examined the skulls of people from the Edo period who consistently practiced tooth blackening. Their teeth are virtually flawless. Researchers found 0 cavities, 0 structural tooth decay, 0 rotting. In an era long before toothbrushes, long before fluoride treatments, and long before modern dental drills, these ancient humans found a way to make their teeth essentially immortal. They were walking around with a mouthful of bulletproof enamel. The black sludge that smelled like rotting garbage was actually one of the most effective cavity preventatives ever invented. Compare their black teeth to our modern obsession. You spend a fortune on modern whitening strips that rely on hydrogen peroxide. You intentionally strip away the protective layers of your natural enamel. You bleach your teeth until they are hypersensitive to a cold glass of water. We actively weaken the structural integrity of our teeth just to make them look good, leaving them prone to microfractures and inevitable decay. We brush, we floss, we scrape, and we still end up with a mouth full of cavities. They weaponize their teeth against decay, while simultaneously making them look like the ultimate status symbols. Their primitive, barbaric beauty trend was actually preventative dentistry operating centuries ahead of its time. So if painting your teeth black was so structurally brilliant and culturally vital, why did it vanish? Why are we not all brushing our teeth with iron and wasp tumors today? You can blame global politics and the sheer force of Western judgment. For centuries, the black teeth reigned supreme in Japan and across various ancient cultures. But then the 19th century happened. Western ships started arriving in Asian ports in massive numbers. The world was rapidly globalizing, and when European and American diplomats, merchants, and sailors stepped off their ships, they took one look at these highly refined, aristocratic humans with pitch-black mouths, and they were utterly horrified. The Westerners did not understand the chemistry. They did not see the profound cultural metaphor for loyalty. They definitely did not see advanced preventative dentistry. They saw rot. To the Western eye, conditioned to view white teeth as the only acceptable standard of health, it looked like the entire population's teeth had decomposed in their skulls. The cultural gap was simply too massive to bridge. The Japanese government, facing immense pressure to modernize and be taken seriously on the global stage by these heavily armed Western powers, realized the black teeth were a diplomatic liability. They were being viewed as backward savages by foreigners, purely because of the color of their highly protected smiles. The erasure was swift and brutal. In 1870, The Japanese government officially banned the practice of ohaguro. Just like that, a 1,000-year-old biological tradition was outlawed overnight. The elites were forced to stop brewing the iron. They scrubbed the protective seal off their teeth. They started adopting Western hygiene practices just to avoid the disgust of outsiders. They let their teeth go white, exposing them to the elements, to sugar, to rapid decay, and to the very animalistic nature they had spent centuries trying so hard to avoid. A practice that protected millions of ancient humans from dental ruin was wiped out by the fragile ego of international politics. It forces you to look at every beauty standard you follow with a heavy dose of suspicion. We assume the things we find attractive today are somehow the objective truth of human aesthetics. We assume white teeth are just naturally, universally better. But human history is mostly just a long string of societies inventing wild, painful ways to signal who has the power and who does not. And sometimes, buried inside those bizarre cultural rituals, there is a hidden, undeniable truth that we completely abandoned along the way. The ancient humans painting their teeth with swamp water were not ignorant. They did not just want to look wealthy. They wanted their teeth to survive the brutal reality of a pre-antibiotic world. They figured out how to freeze their teeth in time. You scrub and bleach your mouth every morning just to look presentable. Knowing one missed appointment could mean a drill tearing into your jaw. They painted their teeth black and never worried about a cavity again. Next time you look in the mirror and obsess over a tiny dark spot, you might have to wonder if the people who embraced the dark were actually the ones who had it all figured out.